at least the majority, were against the wearing of masks. But they went along with it because they felt like they had no choice. That's exactly the same thing for the Sunday law. One more time. I'm going to allow them to let you know, to tell you rather, how they have planned this and that they are going to impose Sabbath laws upon those who disagree with them. The same way, during COVID, they imposed the draconian rules upon you, whether you were in agreement or not. You didn't have a choice in the matter. Well, we did have a choice, but you didn't realize that. At least a few of us did protest against that. Now,
I think that's one of my points, and probably a point if we talk about the on-bill, post-bill distinction or difference. I just don't think you're ever going to escape the nature of politics, which is agonistic. There's a struggle. There's a point in which you debate, and then if you win, and you essentially impose your will upon those who disagree. Essentially impose your will upon those who disagree. So I don't think you'll ever actually escape politics. And I think even if there is a sort of revival, I think if there's a revival in the United States, it's going to include a lot of Baptists as well. Mm-hmm. And many Baptists do not like things like even like Sabbath laws. And so in that sense, I don't think even like a revival itself can be sufficient. You still have to resist people, even the people who have revived.
Even the people who got you there.
Yeah. So you're setting like those are creating conditions in which you can have a Christian civil law. Like those are creating conditions in which you can have a Christian civil law.
Christian civil laws. Now notice again, once you have this group of elite, as he mentioned, and you're going to hear some more, it doesn't matter what the majority think or believe. That's what he's saying. It doesn't matter. All you need is a small group of elite within the government to enforce this. And then it doesn't matter if some Baptists don't believe in Sabbath law. It doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, I want you to this is why I want you to listen carefully. He's going to say, yes, some Baptists are against legislating Sabbath laws, but the Presbyterians are going to do it. Now, I want you to remember, which denomination again? Presbyterian. Who is a Presbyterian? Keep that in mind. Listen carefully. Now, notice, he says the Presbyterian. Now, remember, we just heard that he says some Baptists would be against Sabbath laws. But then he's going to say the Presbyterian would be in favor of it. That's the next clip. Listen carefully. Let's play it.
Essentially impose your will upon those who disagree. Like those are creating conditions in which you can have a Christian civil law. But even within your Christian camp, there's going to be disagreements. And if the Presbyterians are in charge, which is, most likely the case.
Well,
even with their minority status.
If you're post-mill.
Yeah, right. Either way, they'll be in charge, right? So the Baptists are going to resist that, or some of them, not all of them. Many Baptists are, have wised up on that. The old Baptists would certainly be in favor of a no ordinary commerce on a Sunday.
So he said, while some Baptists might be in opposition to Sabbath laws, but he said that the Presbyterians are in favor in that. And Trump is a Presbyterian. What the agenda is. So how would they be able to bring about or enforcing Sabbath laws? Well, he's going to explain what they need. They need the perfect regime to enforce it. That's what he's going to say. Listen.
So how much, when it comes to decisive political leadership at the top, supposing there's a massive general support in the population, not 100%, but let's say 55%, or there's strong base of support, how much of an incrementalist are you? Does your ideal political leader get into power and then shoot the moon? Sabbath legislation, the whole deal, or do you wade in from the shallow end?
Yeah, you always have an ideal. You have the perfect regime.
What do you need to enforce it? perfect regime. In other words, here's what that means. They have been planning this and waiting for the perfect regime. And Trump administration is that perfect regime. So all of those things have been planned. Remember, way before Trump became president the second time, there was Project 2025. And Project 2025 outlined the presidential transition, the plan. And part of it, within Project 2025, it calls for the enforcement of Sabbath laws. I don't think we are awake to realize that based on what Sister White says and the Bible, this is the final act in the drama. This is what's going to determine clearly on which side of this great controversy we are going to be found. Whether we are inside of the church or outside of the church. Everybody, just like COVID, will be affected by it, and everybody must make a decision either for or against the truth. That is the crisis. It is final. This morning, we looked at the number of the beast. We dealt with the number of the beast. The system to enforce it. It has everything to do with your basic necessities. And this crisis also means that, as Jesus mentioned to the woman at the well, those who worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth. How would we handle this when everything around us is being taken away from us? Those individuals who call themselves Christians are speaking indeed as a dragon. And they think, this is the sad reality of it all, many of them think that they are doing God's will. Didn't Jesus say this? The time will come when they that persecute you will think that they are doing God's will. And you could see this because they casually talking about it, laughing about it, and by the way, they are drinking at the same time because there's alcohol on the table. You're going to see that in a moment. Now, notice carefully. Again, a strong will minority, that's all they need to enforce Sabbath laws. Listen carefully to the next quote. You ready?
Does your ideal political leader get into power and then shoot the moon? Sabbath legislation.
I don't think, so you mentioned 55%. I don't think that you even have to have 55% of support or a majority. I mean, I guess I'm an elitist in that sense, but in the way there's a lot of people who will just kind of shift with the imagination set by the people, the ruling class. So you actually don't need like a majority support of the population. You just need a strong-willed minority, and then that ruling class can shape the imagination of the majority, which I think Trump is doing now, because for decades we've had a very kind of weak right when it comes to imposing your will upon the executive branch. And now he's actually revealing to the country that, oh wait, there is this executive who's vested with the executive power who can exercise power within his branch.
Oh, what does that say? He said, what we need is a strong minority. And Trump is doing it now. That's what he just said. He said Trump is doing it now. Project 2025 is alive and well. Listen, now the establishment of a man-made or a woman-made theocracy. That's what he was describing here, theocracy. A system that was similar to the Dark Ages. Because that's what we had during the Dark Ages. The papacy counterfeited the system of theocracy that the children of Israel had. That God, remember, let me pause it for a moment before I move on, just in case you're not familiar with theocracy. Theo means God, and krasi means to govern or
with the imagination set by the people, the ruling class. So you don't need like a majority support of the population. You just need a strong-willed minority, and then that ruling class can shape the imagination of the majority, which I think Trump is doing now, because for decades we've had a very kind of weak right when it comes to imposing your will upon the executive branch, and now he's actually revealing to the country that, oh wait, there is this executive who's vested with the executive power, who can exercise power within his branch.
Oh, brothers and sisters, he said what we need is a strong minority, and Trump is doing it now. That's what he just said. He said Trump is doing it now. Project 2025 is alive and well. Listen to what Spirit of Prophecy says here. Now, the establishment of a man-made or a woman-made theocracy. That's what he was describing here, theocracy. A system that was similar to the Dark Ages. Because that's what we had during the Dark Ages. The papacy counterfeited the system of theocracy that the children of Israel had. That God, remember, let me pause it for a moment before I move on, just in case you're not familiar with theocracy. Theo means God, and krasi means to govern, or laws, to rule. That's what krasi means. So during the time of the judges, for example, during that time, Israel as a nation did not have a human king over them. They had God ruling over them. So that is a system of theocracy, right? That was a theocracy. So you had God ruling over them. God did not put religious men at the head to rule over them, but it was God himself, because God is the way, the truth, and the life, right? So if God is ruling as our high priest, as our religious leader, so we know that nothing will be infallible. You see? Everything will be righteousness, truth, holiness, right? But if you have a man as a high priest ruling over a nation, ruling over the civil power, the civil magistrate, now you know that man, because the man is fallible, right? Because the man is mortal, because the man is a sinner. So that man will start ruling based on what he believes. He will become a dictator. So that was a system that God had. He was the one ruling over Israel, theocracy. But when Israel asked for a king, a human king, to rule over them, in the days of Saul, before he became King Saul, then at that moment Israel ceased to be a theocratic nation. In other words, God was no longer ruling over them as their king. There will never be another such system until the earth is made new. But we had that starting in 538 AD to 1798. That was a counterfeit theocracy. And we know what happened. Millions of God's faithful souls, men and women, lost their lives because they refused to worship according to the thus saith, that power there on the screen. Let's go back to the screen now. Again, it says, now the establishment of a man-made or a woman-made theocracy will be but a repetition of the establishment and working of the hideous principles of the papacy, if not the establishment of the papacy itself in this country. The papacy is a what? Theocracy. Did you know that? No. Did you know that the papacy system is a theocracy?
Think so, yeah.
Oh, how?
Is the infallible?
Yes, he is God infallible. Very good. He is God infallible, and you have church and state unification there, right? And they mostly rule by their doctrines, by their teachings, right? By their beliefs. So that's a theocracy. Let's continue. If not the establishment of the papacy itself in this country, the papacy is a theocracy. Its workings throughout history have been but the practice of the principles of a man-made theocracy. The rule of such a theocracy is the wickedest rule that the world has known or can know. Well, the United States of America, it was prophesied there in Revelation chapter 13 that they will re-establish this theocracy. Because it says here that he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him. And one of the powers of the first beast, or the system of the first beast, or the characteristic of the first beast is theocracy, which is a counterfeit theocracy. Remember, it says that the United States will force everybody to worship that system, that power. That's theocracy. That is a system of theocracy. Now listen, now they're going to go into natural laws. Again, they are going to make the connection here. Now, remember, what is natural laws? You know what natural laws, or there's another way to put that, or natural rights. That's the other way to put it. Natural laws or natural rights. It's it's within the Constitution, right? Alienable right. And yes, thank you. Where did we get that from? Did we get that from the Constitution? God. Or did we get it from God? No, what it says in the Constitution is just an echo of what God has said and established. It's something, well, hence the name, natural rights, right? Hence the name, right? It's something that is embedded in you. It's in your DNA. Let's put it this way. It's in your DNA. All right. Now, with that in mind, they're going to say, which is something that one of our pioneers said long ago. And I'm going to quote that for you. But first, I'm going to allow you to listen to them using that same expression, natural right, to say that Sunday law is part of natural rights. Sunday law is part of natural rights. Listen carefully. If natural laws advocate wins, so, well, let me back up here to help you to understand what's going to happen. So this is another segment of that interview. So the interviewer is going to ask Stephen Wolf. Now keep in mind, this just took place. This interview just took place this month, just a few days ago. He's going to ask Stephen Wolf. He said, let's pretend we are still in the election, the 2024 election. He said, let's pretend that we are still in the 2024 election and we don't know who's winning the election. Let's pretend. And then he's going to use that to talk about natural rights. Let's play that. You ready?
Pretend we're still dealing with Biden and we don't know who's going to win the election. If speaking as a Ventilian and a theonomist kind of guy, if the natural law guys got in control instead of the Democrats, I'd be thrilled out of my brains. Right? And I think sensible natural law people, if the theonomists took over from Biden and were doing what they were doing, everybody would say, man, this is an improvement either way from secular godlessness, right? First, would you agree with that? And secondly, do you think it's important for theonomists and natural law advocates to be debating now?
Ooh, this is deep. This is deep. Now, keep in mind, he said pretend. Pretend that we are still in the election season, right? Pretend that. So if we are still in the election season, that means we are still in the Biden era, or Biden, what was her name again? Kamala?
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, yeah. I forgot her name already. So pretend that's where we are still, right? Pretend. And then he asked this question, which has to do with natural rights. So Let's listen to the answers. Again, listen carefully, pay attention here to what's happening. How the Constitution is being hijacked here to promote Christian nationalists. Listen carefully.
When you say natural law, guys, people first think of like Escondido theology, where they are the natural law, two kingdoms guys.
According to a lot of the standard Reformed theologians, natural law, natural revelation, whichever way you want to put it, teaches us that we need to take a day off every 7. Right? That's a natural law thing. The scriptures tell us what day it is.
Right.
Okay. In the Old Covenant, it's the 7th day. In the New Covenant, it's the first day. So when you were referring to Sabbath legislation earlier, that would be the harmonization of natural law and grace completing nature. When the magistrate says ordinary commerce is done on the Lord's Day, we're not going to do that. That would be legit, according to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually why I think that's the reason why you can have a Sabbath law, for that very reason. So, and why it's on Sunday.
So
because you can. It's a natural principle, and it's completed by grace. And I'm not one of those guys. So they tend to want to separate nature from grace, such that the things of grace cannot be completed by nature. Which but by which I mean they don't think you can have a Christian civil society, Christian civil laws, Christian government, Christian matters, where I think you can. So if my sort of natural law guys were in power, I don't think it would actually be far from theonomy in power, because I see that there is a role. I mean, Scripture is a source of civil law, even if you are pro-natural law. When I say I'm pro-natural law, what I mean is that I think the foundation of all civil law is the natural law. And I think politics itself foundationally is a matter of humans, in their natural, as social beings, as political animals. But I think that you can fulfill natural principles by an application of grace. So what I mean is that I think it's a natural principle that the civil ruler should support and protect true religion. Okay, I think that's a natural principle. But grace, God has revealed that Christianity,
according to a lot of
the government
theologians,
should naturally promote Christianity. My question is, which Christianity? Which version of Christianity? Do you see it? Which version of Christianity that must be protected and promoted? Well, Sister White says, Roman Catholic principles shall be taken under the care of and protection of the state. That's the Christianity. Roman Catholic principles shall be taken under the care and protection of the state. Because there are so many versions of Christianity out there. Will they promote the Christianity that says that the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God? I don't think so. No, it's a Christianity that tells you that you must keep Sunday holy. Natural laws. Oh, brothers and sisters, Project 2025 is alive and well. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. There's a reason why it is called Project 2025. We have to see this year. Remember, you have the year 2030 coming. Remember all the plans, the agenda. We've been hearing a lot about 2030 for a long time now. The Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, for example. The 2030 agenda. We've heard of all of those things. And by 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be so glad, happy about it. We've heard all of those things. The year 2025 is the year that everything that must be established to conform, to transition the world to the year, to what's coming in the year 2030, it must happen here. It must happen here. When it comes to religion, the economy, politics, everything must happen this year. The money, everything. Yes, we're already in July. Everything must take place and have been taking place this year. And it's only what, the middle of the year. We're not over yet. We have 5+ months to go. 5 months and a few more days to go. It's not over yet. And there's always an October surprise, right? There's always an October surprise. And we're not in October yet.